Did you know that the NBA League generates over $8 billion annually? The NBA is a big business, and running that business can involve vetoing trades, prolonging playoff series, and enabling big-market teams to get high draft picks. If you love conspiracy theories, then this video is for you, because here are the most controversial moments in NBA history. 2002 Western Conference Finals, Game 6. The Sacramento Kings had the best record in the league in 2002 and were on the brink of their first NBA Finals, leading the Lakers 3-2 in the West Finals. The Lakers didn't have a solution for the super talented Kings, and that's when the officials decided to offer a helping hand. Almost every call down the stretch of Game 6 was terrible, and the Kings players got fouls just by looking in Shaq's general direction. The Lakers shot 18 more free throws than the Kings in the final quarter, but it was still a close game. And then, the crown jewel, the pièce de résistance of bad calls, happened 1 minute before the end. It was the uncalled foul on Kobe Bryant when he elbowed and bloodied the face of Mike Bibby. The ref saw it as Bibby's foul, and that was all she wrote. The Kings lost the game, and then Game 7 as well. And everybody with a healthy pair of eyes saw what kind of a robbery it was. Tim Donaghy, an NBA ref who was convicted for fixing games, said that this contest between the Kings and Lakers was blatant fraud, and that the NBA instructed the refs to set the Lakers up for an NBA Finals appearance to increase the TV ratings. Like he always did, David Stern denied all accusations, even though he admitted that the refs were bad in Game 6. 1985 Draft Lottery. The 1985 NBA Draft Lottery was the first of its kind, when the lottery system replaced the coin toss as the decider for the top pick in the draft. The lottery system was supposed to be less controversial and eligible for fraud, but the inaugural lottery ended up being the most controversial of them all. By the 1985 lottery rules, 7 teams had an equal 14.3% chance to win the first pick, which meant the right to select Patrick Ewing, a consensus best player in the draft. The NBA didn't use the ping pong balls they do now. They actually put large cards into a tumbler, spun it around, and David Stern would select one to be the top pick. There was controversy coming into the draft when Stan Kasten, then the general manager of the Atlanta Hawks, told the general public that the draft was a setup and that the Knicks will be the lottery winners because they are the biggest market and the biggest breadwinner for the league. When that indeed happened, conspiracy theories started to come up in a whirlwind. The lottery was organized by an accounting firm, Ernst & Whinney, which was owned by the Knicks. Jack Wagner, a partner at Ernst & Whinney, placed the envelopes in the drum and curiously happened to bang one of the envelopes and made a small dent, which happened to be the Knicks envelope. Some people also claim that they put the Knicks envelope in a freezer so Stern would know which one to pull out. When asked about the setup, Stern defended himself by asking, "Why would I put myself and the league at such a huge legal risk? That's crazy." 2000 Western Finals Game 7. Shaq was on a mission in 2000, and in the best shape of his life, he won the NBA MVP and was determined to win his first title. But the Lakers ran into the most challenging possible opponents in the Western Finals, the Portland Trail Blazers, who were often called the Jailblazers during that era. The Jailblazers were tough as nails, and they also had a really talented team that pushed the Lakers to Game 7. There, it seemed like Kobe and Shaq would leave empty-handed once more, with the Blazers leading by 16 late in the third quarter. However, with some Portland misses here, some terrible ref calls there, and a spectacular alley-oop from Bryant to Shaq, the Lakers completed a comeback and secured a trip to the NBA Finals. Due to many bad calls and Scottie Pippen and Arvydas Sabonis fouling out in Game 7, this game was considered a huge steal in favor of the Lakers. 2006 NBA Finals. The NBA Finals is one of the most watched sporting events on the planet, and it's in the league's best interest that it lasts as long as it can. So when the Mavericks took a 2-0 lead in the 2006 Finals and were up by double digits in Game 3, it seemed like the series was over, which wasn't too pleasing for David Stern. But that's when Dwayne Wade saved the day for the Heat and the NBA. Young Flash played out of his mind, willing his team to victory in Game 3, albeit with a bit of a push from the refs. But what was a little wind in the Heat's sails in Game 3 was an absolute hurricane in Game 5, when Wade went 21 for 25 from the free throw line, shooting as many freebies as the entire Mavericks team. In the final 4 games of the series, Wade shot an average of 18 free throws per game. The Heat would win all those games and clinch their first title, but it left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. Mark Cuban was livid, accusing the league that the games were rigged to increase revenue, and many people agreed with him. Of course, David Stern was not among those people, and Cuban got a $250,000 fine and a reminder that he may be a shark on Shark Tank, but the biggest and meanest fish in the NBA was still Mr. Stern. Chris Paul trade vetoed. Chris Paul got drafted to the NBA in 2005, quickly becoming a big star and the best point guard in the league. However, New Orleans was never a serious contender during his 6-year tenure, and CP had no desire to extend his expiring contract in 2011, so the club had to trade him. The Hornets general manager Dell Demps agreed on a 3-team trade, and Paul should have gone to the Lakers, who would have sent all-star Pau Gasol to Houston, and the Hornets would have gotten back a package of 4 players and multiple draft picks. But the Hornets, now called the Pelicans, had no owner at the time, and were temporarily led by then NBA Commissioner David Stern. Stern acted as a representative of all the other NBA owners, who feared that the combination of Paul and Kobe Bryant would be unstoppable. Under their influence, Stern vetoed the trade under the pretext that it was not in the Hornets' best interest. 4 days later, Paul was traded to the LA Clippers for Eric Gordon, Al-Farouq Aminu, and Chris Kaman. In retrospect, a far worse deal than originally proposed. Stern's decision to nix the first trade was greeted with an enormous backlash from the fans around the league, and some still consider it illegal today. The GM Dell Demps was not authorized to make that trade, and acting on behalf of owners, we decided not to make it. I was an owner rep. There was nothing to veto. It just never got made, Stern later explained. 2012 Draft Lottery. The NBA bought the New Orleans Hornets in 2011 for $300 million to ensure the franchise's financial solvency and the health of the league as a whole. After David Stern had his hands in the Chris Paul trade and got an enormous amount of flack for his involvement, he wasted no time to find a new owner who would relieve him of his newfound GM duties. By April 2012, the NBA found a buyer for the Hornets when Saints owner Tom Benson purchased the team for $338 million. Benson then needed a superstar to bring fans to the arena, something Stern was very hopeful to accomplish as well, partly to make up for the Chris Paul fiasco. Despite having only a 13% chance of winning, the Hornets won the lottery and drafted Anthony Davis. Luck, coincidence, or something else, it only gave birth to another round of boos for Stern. 1988 NBA Finals Game 6. In 1988, the Lakers were the NBA powerhouse and its most popular team, while the Pistons were the bad boys, and not that much liked outside of Michigan. The two teams met in the NBA Finals, and the Pistons had the chance to take all the marbles in Game 6, leading the series 3-2. And what a Game 6 it was! The Lakers led at halftime, but Isaiah Thomas scored 25 points in the third quarter, despite severely injuring his ankle and barely standing. With his one-legged heroics, the Pistons were on the brink of their first title in franchise history, but that's when the refs got involved. With 14 seconds left and the Pistons up by 1, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was fouled by Bill Laimbeer on a play where Laimbeer did not appear to even touch Jabbar. The Lakers won the game, and eventually the championship in Game 7, but many believed that the Pistons were heavily robbed. Dikembe Mutombo congratulating the Sixers on the first pick. Considering the clout of the draft lottery and all the conspiracy theories out there, Dikembe Mutombo certainly didn't help the league out and has added fuel to the fire with his tweet in 2016. He congratulated his former team, the Philadelphia 76ers, on landing the #1 pick, which would have been perfectly okay if he didn't do that 17 hours before the actual draft lottery. Sure, Philly had the best odds to land the first pick, and maybe Dikembe was just really optimistic, or maybe a little confused. Perhaps he had a night out and forgot what day it was. It happened to me more than once, so no judging here, Dikembe. Whatever it wasn't a good look for the league, who's been dealing with accusations of fixing the lottery for decades. Mutombo deleted the tweet, but Philadelphia ended up with the first pick, thus putting on another layer of intrigue to the integrity of the draft lottery. 1993 Draft Lottery. The Orlando Magic had won the 1992 lottery and selected Shaquille O'Neal with the first pick in the draft. Shaq was a dominant force from the get-go, and he pushed the lowly Magic to a 41-41 record, but they were still one win short from the playoffs, and thus got another chance in the lottery. This time, they only had a 1.5% chance to win it, but as you can probably guess, that's exactly what happened. Orlando was a new up-and-coming franchise at the time, and for them to win 2 lotteries in a row seemed far-fetched. and some people believe it was in the NBA's best interest to push the odds in Magic's favor. Draymond Green's suspension in the 2016 NBA Finals. During the 2016 Western Finals, Draymond Green had hit the Thunder center Steven Adams in the groin twice, showing precision that far exceeded his shooting touch in basketball. Green said it was not on purpose and that he does not want to deprive anyone on the basketball court of the opportunity to one day be a parent. "Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me," the NBA said back to Draymond, explaining that kicking people in the family jewels can be an accident once, but that the second kick will be treated as a flagrant foul. It was Draymond's third flagrant in the playoffs, and the next one meant that he would earn himself a one-game suspension. The Warriors would then proceed to the NBA Finals and gain a 3-1 lead over the LeBron-led Cavaliers, but would have to play without Draymond in Game 5. After a scuffle with LeBron in Game 4, Draymond took a swing where LeBron James doesn't like to be touched by anyone other than Mrs. James. It was his third ball strike, and he was out for Game 5, which swung the series in the Cavs' favor, and was the main reason the Warriors didn't celebrate another championship. Even though the Warriors fans argued that a call like that can't be made on the grandest stage, and that the suspension is overblown, this one was hardly rigged, and the decision to suspend Green was probably the correct one.